Welcome. Namaste. Welcome back to your basic foundational yoga posture of the week, where over the next several weeks, I am choosing certain specific basic foundational beginner-friendly yoga postures, choosing them to demo to you. So how to get into the posture, some of the posture's benefits, and also some modifications of the postures. My name is Jessie, aka Moonchild Yoga, and we have reached the part of this little series where we are now in seated postures. So if you have checked any of my previous videos with this related content, you will see that we did a lot of two-sided postures. Most of them, all of them, were standing. The modifications, of course, were in somewhat in chairs or in a chair. But this portion of the series, we're rounding this out with a few of the seated postures. And so this week's posture is our lovely Dandasana, seated staff pose. So Dandasana is a very foundational posture from a seated position. And so to come into this posture to the traditional way without any modifications, you're going to come to a seated position on the floor or on your mat. And if you're on a mat, you're going to have your feet facing the front of the mat, typically. And you're going to bring the flesh of the bum out from underneath of you here. You're going to bring your big toes to touch. Keep a gentle flex of your feet and your toes. You're going to press down through the entirety of the back portions of your legs. You're going to find length in your spine. So keeping your spine nice and long. Soften your shoulders down your back. Your hands are going to be resting on the earth by your hips. And you're going to stack your head and neck over your torso. And if you would like to, once you come into this position, you can close your eyes down and simply breathe in to what you're feeling here. And so that was the traditional way to come into Dandasana staff pose. But not everybody can come into the position in that way. So it's nice to be able to have some props for modifications. So a couple of the modifications that you can have or that you can do in this posture to help it to be more easy and accessible. First, you can have a folded blanket. So this particular blanket that I have is small, but it will definitely be sufficient. So the blanket is folded lengthwise. I have it folded, I guess, probably about 3 times. And this small little width of blanket here will give a good support to your sits bones. If you have issues with your lower back or any problems coming into the pose in the traditional stance. And so again, you'll face the front of the mat and you will have your folded blanket up behind you, and you're simply going to lift your hips onto the blanket. So you're seated on the edge of the blanket. You may have to squiggle around to kind of get a good feel for what feels right and what helps to maintain the comfort, if you will. So you want to feel sensation with comfort. You don't ever want to feel pain in anything you do in your yoga practice. So this is a really great way to help support the hips, and which in turn helps supports the lumbar spine or the lower back. And once again, you're going to bring your palms to rest on the earth by the hips. Bring your big toes to touch. Flex out through your big toes, and to the best of your ability, press down into the backs of your legs. So again, not everyone can do that, and that is okay. So pressing down into the backs of your legs, and then bringing length into your spine. So growing long and tall in your spine here. And perhaps you close your eyes down and just simply breathe in to what you're feeling. Another modification here. You can do this modification either seated on your blanket or with your sits bones directly on the earth. So that is entirely up to you in your practice. But is to bring a block underneath of the knees. So if you have knee sensitivity, if you're feeling a lot of pressure in your knees as you press them straight down into the earth, having this block here to absorb the space in between the earth and the knees is a really great option. I recommend using a foam block for this. I have my cork blocks over here off to the sides if you can see them. Cork blocks are my favorite in my yoga practice. They're just stronger and more stable as I'm using them for standing balancing postures. But for this specific modification, I do recommend a cork block. And yoga blocks actually come in different sizes. So you'll notice that this block is a little bit smaller than this one. So this block is a great addition if you need just a little bit of support. So it's a little bit shorter and has a shorter stance if you don't need quite as big of a prop as a regular sized yoga block. And so with your block under your knees, you're going to just simply come into the posture once again, bringing the flesh of the bum out from underneath of you. Once again, seated on the blanket or not, that is totally up to you. And bringing your block under your knees, you're going to rest your palms down by your hips. Find length in your spine. Bring your big toes to touch, stacking your head and neck over your torso. And then perhaps you close your eyes down. Let your shoulders be soft. And just breathe into what you feel here. Bringing a gentle press of your legs and your knees down into your prop. Another modification is instead of sitting on a blanket, if you need a little more support under your hips, you can use a bolster. So bolsters come in all different shapes and sizes. I am using a medium bolster here. I do recommend these Yes for All bolsters if you want to make a good investment in props in your practice. These types of bolsters are my favorite, but there are many, many other bolsters on the market that are wonderful additions to your yoga practice. So do a little shopping with that if you are going to go into the realm of purchasing props for your practice. Same with the blocks. If you're seated on your bolster, your hips are going to be much higher. So I do recommend that if you have any knee sensitivity, to definitely use a block under your knees. I have a lot of trouble with my knees, and I find that different positions bring different sensations and different discomfort in my knees. If I am sitting on a bolster for this pose, I absolutely need my block under my knees. You do not have to have that if your knees are okay. You can use it without, you can do this modification without the use of the block. So it just depends on what sort of sensitivities you have in different areas of your body. So once again, you're bringing the flesh of the bum out from underneath of you, even on the prop. You're going to grow long and tall in your spine. Rest your hands either on your bolster or down on the earth beside your hips. So once again, that is personal preference. So the goal with the modifications of this sort is we want to keep the spine nice and long. We want to keep everything in line. So we want to keep the head and the neck stacked directly over the torso. Your gaze is forward. And pressing down into your legs and your knees, bring your big toes to touch, just a gentle flex of the feet. And perhaps you close your eyes down here. Keep your shoulders relaxed. And simply breathe into what you feel. And if you've been following along with my other videos, I have offered all of these basic foundational yoga postures with a modification of being seated in a chair. And so our Dandasana staff pose is no different. It's not always feasible to be able to come down all the way onto a mat or onto the floor to be able to do some of these seated postures. More often than not, I hear from students who have challenges with getting up and down that if they get down, they won't be able to get back up. So a chair is a great way to take up lots of space in between the earth and your body if you want to work into exploring the wonderful benefits of these postures. And so for Dandasana, what you'll want is I always recommend this sort of a chair, a smaller, maybe even a folding chair for these sorts of things. You can use any chair. You can even use your couch for your Dandasana staff pose. But typically, if you're able, it's nice to have this kind of a chair for this posture. So you want to come about halfway. You want to be seated about halfway between the front and the back of the chair. You're bringing the flesh of the bum out from underneath of you. You can have your feet resting on the earth instead of having a prop. I thought it would be best to be able to prop your feet up so you can get the full feeling of this posture from a seated in a chair position. Any prop will do. You do not have to use a bolster. You can always use a block, such as I demonstrated a couple of minutes ago when I was down on my mat. So you can prop your feet on a block. You can use, if you don't have bolsters or blocks, a sturdy stack of books or a thick book would be really good as a substitute for a block. A couch cushion or a firm pillow would be really nice in the place of a bolster. And so however you're going to come into the seated position, you take a seat in your chair. Once again, we want to bring the flesh of the bum out from underneath of us. And the biggest goal is to try to keep the spine nice and long. Stack the head and neck over the torso. You can have your hands hanging down by your chair. So that helps to instill a sense of relaxedness in your shoulders, helps to draw them down your back. And pressing down as comfortably as you can through your knees. So pressing down comfortably as you can through your knees, flexing out through your toes, bringing your big toes to touch, and simply breathing in to what you feel here. And so if coming into this posture in a chair and having your feet resting on a prop does not work for you, or even having your legs straight, you can always simply just bend your knees like you are sitting tall in a chair. Lengthen the spine, shoulders down the back, close your eyes down. And breathe into what you feel. So you want to feel a sense of length in the spine. Gently tuck your tailbone forward and up towards your belly button in this version of this modification. Feeling your feet pressed down into the earth here. And notice what you feel. So some benefits of your Dandasana staff pose. It improves posture. So maintaining that length in the spine and keeping the shoulders down the back and keeping the head and neck stacked in line with the torso are really great ways to improve posture. It also increases flexibility in the hamstrings and the hips. So thinking about keeping that gentle press of the knees down into your block or the earth. Those are really great subtle ways to find lengthening and more flexibility in your hamstrings. And being seated simply with having your hips or, having your legs in the straight out position, your hips are automatically bent. And that helps to increase strength and flexibility there. And it also helps to gently tone the core and the lower back. So as you're seated in the position, thinking about having a gentle press of the navel back in towards the spine, and also keeping the hips and the tailbone just gently forward and up towards the belly button. All of those are really great subtle ways to improve the strength in the area of your core, which is also, believe it or not, your core is actually, it's a lot more than just your belly and your lower back. It actually reaches from your armpits all the way down to your knees. So those are things to keep in mind in any core strengthening yoga practice or yoga pose, and also to keep in mind as a subtle way to enhance the strength in that area of the body in your Dandasana staff pose. Thank you so much for joining. If you like this content, please feel free to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel to see more of this content. We've got a few more postures before this series is completed. And I hope you have enjoyed this, and I hope you have a lovely day, and I will see you soon. Namaste.